The studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10 o'clock.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. You are tuned into Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's Friday, 18th of October, and the time has now just gone 10 o'clock. Welcome to Mother's Planet, a show where there is always something to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I'm your host, Neelam, and today I will be discussing seeking inner peace. A reminder to myself, and hopefully a moment for us all to reflect on how we can better achieve this. I have got some useful points that I'll be sharing this morning, and also a really beneficial talk by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf as well that will be shared with you all this morning. But firstly, let's get started by talking about the weather and about the week. The weather, it's been a bit of a strange one. Last week, I decided to declutter my wardrobe, and I have seasonal clothes, alhamdulillah. So I got rid of all my summer things, packed them up and vacuum packed them and stored them away. This includes like summer jumpers, jackets, cardigans, things like that. And I re-rotated it with my winter outfits, jumpers, big coats, and it felt a bit like summer this week. I don't know how you found it, but earlier in the week, I think it was Wednesday afternoon, it got really warm, and it almost didn't justify me walking around with my winter coat. So I did have to dig my thin summer jacket out, spring jacket out, and just keep that on a hanger just in case, because it did feel warm. But bizarrely this morning, it's not great. It's, we're waking up to foggy mornings, which is quite hard in the mornings. I'm finding it already a struggle getting up and getting the kids up because it's cold and our beds are warm, and that time of year is happening now where we don't have that spring in our step where we just want to just stay in bed. So listeners, how has the week been for you all? I hope you have all had a productive week and managed to juggle the weather because it is constantly playing tricks on us. And I hope that the kids have been fine because there's lots of bugs going around and lots of children being poorly. I've had literally like a domino in my house, one by one. As soon as one gets better, the other one's down. As soon as the other one gets better, the other one's down. So it's quite draining, actually. It's been really draining at home. And I found that it's all happening now, which I'm happy about because that gives me some free time, hopefully, inshallah, in half term, where any of them are poorly and we can get on and do things. So, listeners, we are live on air, reaching out to all our listeners in Luton and surrounding areas through the airwaves at Inspire FM 105.1 FM. You can also connect on TuneIn via the Inspire FM webpage. And I am taking in WhatsApp and text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822 if you want to tell me how your week's been or have any comments or things that you'd like to share around today's topic. Now, I wanted to kick the show off with a question, one that I'm going to get you all listeners to think about. And I know that it took me a while to try and answer it myself, actually. But today's topic is all about seeking inner peace and having those moments in our life. I am going to be using this from a faith perspective, where we are going to be reflecting on our faith, the practice of our faith, and connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to try and seek for this inner peace. So the question I wanted to kick off the show with was, when was the last time you found inner peace? When was the last time that you found inner peace? What were you doing at that time? So, think back to a time when you were feeling truly at ease. Was this when you went for a walk, taking in the fresh air, absorbing in your environment, the weather? Was it during your salah? during it, at the end of it, while you were out in the garden, gardening, fixing your plants, watering your plants, or connecting with nature, with animals. When was it that you felt true inner peace? Was it when you let go of a worry or a concern, something that was weighing you down that you were able to just shift aside, and you found that you were truly at ease or at peace? I'd love to hear from you all this morning to answer that question. 07779 when you actually felt at ease. Now, I really struggled with this because at first I was trying to understand the term peace and what peace actually meant. And as busy mums, we think there's something like peace really exists. The house is always noisy, the kids are always screaming, arguing, there's adult conversations going on, the TV's playing in the background, there's always noise. So peace, what is peace? But peace doesn't have to be associated to silence or the sounds or what's going on around us. Because sometimes when we sit in the garden, and actually, if you get time to do this, sit in the garden and just observe the sounds outside. Now, part of my youngest daughter's homework this week was to take them to a park or just go for a walk with them. And they're using their listening skills. So she's reception age child. So they are trying to get them to listen to their environment and listen to the sounds around them. And, obviously we're busy. We get from one place to another. We often don't take that time where we just go outside and we listen to the different sounds. So when I did that activity with her, I actually found it quite noisy outside. I thought, wow, noisy, not to the extent that it was, hurting my ears or giving me a headache. It was noisy in the sense that there's so many sounds going on around us that we can really switch off to. And my husband thinks that I have that same ability to do that in the house. When the kids are screaming and shouting, he doesn't understand how I can just switch off and not be bothered by it. But I think that's just a mum thing. I think that, back me up, mums here. Is that a mum thing? Can we just, become oblivious to the noise and the bickering because it's a daily thing? Whereas when obviously the dads walk in or your husband comes in and he hears the sound, it's a bit alarming to their ears. But yeah, I've learned to switch off from it. It doesn't alarm me as much now. But yes, there's so much sound going on around us. But despite that sound, I really had a nice walk with her. We were able to talk about what we could hear, the different bird sounds, the cars in the distance, the cars nearby, the trees, just hearing the trees leaves rustle. It was amazing. And, there were different sounds. And I felt at peace. I thought, well, I'm actually quite relaxed, but I'm doing so much because I'm trying to listen to the different sounds around me. So I thought, okay, so peace is not anything to do with noise. It's to do with what makes you feel comfortable. So, where you actually feel calm. And I found that was the moment for me when I actually, I felt at some form of peace, just walking through and being mindful of what was around me and the presence around me. So share your thoughts, listeners. How do you seek inner peace? What do you do? Are your walks as peaceful as mine? Do you find that observing nature and the sounds and really listening and being present helps you? I'd love to hear from you this morning. So many of you might be thinking, inner peace, why is this so important and why do we need it? And I wanted to really emphasize this, that the inner peace is important because of the hustle and bustle that we live in the crazy life that everything's around us at the moment. It's really important. So despite the health benefits of seeking inner peace, where we are at a mindful moment where we are relaxed, where we are not having thoughts that are agitating us, or where we are thinking too much that's making our pulse go fluctuate. It's where we are at peace. So, despite the health benefits, it's also a time where you are taking that reflective moment. And it's quite nice because I had my daughter with me and we were talking, but I was also clearing my head and clearing my head from thoughts and just emptying myself, if that made sense. And it felt my emptying my head as such, and it felt really good. So I wanted to break down the understanding of inner peace first, what it is, and my understanding of it, and associating it to our faith and belief. So, listeners, if you have just tuned in this morning, you are tuned into Mother's Planet on Inspire FM 105.1 FM. I am your host, Neelam, and today I am talking about seeking inner peace, and trying to find ways of how we can achieve this. And I wanted to first define what inner peace is and the importance of it. So it's a state of calmness and contentment within yourself. It's when you are feeling at ease, even when the things around you might not be perfect. So, for me, that moment was when I went out for a walk with my daughter and we were observing sounds. And, usually when we need to go somewhere, like if we're going for a walk, I need to go to the shops to grab something or need to go and drop this off to the post office. We just go. I'm not present. But at that time, a part of her activity for school was to be present and mindful of the sounds around you. So I was listening to sounds around me and there was noise, but I still felt calm and at ease and at peace. So even though there was madness going on around me, cars, sounds, birds, trees, leaves, people, children screaming, I was still at peace. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that things around you are perfect. So in our faith, in Islam, when we refer to inner peace, we refer to it as sakina, which is tranquility. So it's calmness that comes from your heart, that comes in your heart when you are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just the absence of stress, but the presence of faith and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have an ayah from the Quran to remind us of this. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. And this is from Surah in the Quran, Surah number 13, verse number 28. So indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. So true peace really comes from a heart that remembers and trusts Allah. So we need to reconnect and re-engage ourselves into trying to find that inner peace. But naturally, we have obstacles in the way. It's not, I'm constantly trying to battle with all my demons and voices and, external pressures, internal pressures of all the things to try and find this time to find peace and just find that tranquil moment of the day. So, we have our external pressures, and this is, the dunya, the current times we live in. Things are really busy. You try and meet up with people that you haven't seen for a long time, meeting up with friends. It just seems really impossible at the moment. Time is just slipping and life can actually be quite overwhelming. Keeping up with the social media platforms, when you're working, keeping up with the emails, calls, meetings, even now school notifications are all via email or via an app, and you have to keep up to date on it. So the mobile phone is no longer an accessory. It's actually become a necessity in our lives. And we have to keep it plugged next to us, in our pockets or around our necks so that we can be connected to everything that's going on. And so it can bog us down. And this external pressure of the dunya can make us forget to take that time out and readjust, realign our purpose. And then we have the internal struggles. This is within ourselves, the fear, the anxiety, the procrastination that, when you're constantly thinking about overthinking or thinking about something. I know I'm a true, I think I'm the definition of procrastination, because I overthink and think and think and think. And sometimes it's just not worth it, because all that thinking gets me nowhere, or what I wanted to do or the time that I wanted to take out has slipped by, or I've lost it. So it's really important that we try not to listen to those voices in our heads or overthink things. I am trying my best now to just, when something comes my way, just to act on it, just to do it, rather than think, I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to do this later. So it's that constant battle that we have between the external and internal pressures. And this is what's pulling us away from that moment of sakina, that moment of tranquility, where we are trying to not check on our phones all the time, not be on the, work calls, emails. The dunya is really dragging us down. And then we have our own inner thoughts and feelings of, well, you can't do this. And often I spoke to somebody, and they were saying that when they sit down to try and find that moment of peace, they don't like the silence. It scares them. There's a lot of people that just don't like silence. And that's why at the beginning of the show, I was saying that to find that inner peace doesn't mean you have to be in a room, soundproof room, where there's no noise, nothing going on. You can have chaos around you, but it's just being at peace, being at ease. And it's trying to find that balance, because some people cannot switch off from the external sounds to connect with themselves internally. So it is a fear. People do find it scary just to try and go first and find that place or that moment of silence, because then you have other things and other thoughts that come to your head, and and people don't like that. But we have to remember that, trying to find that tranquil moment, that moment of peace, is not something that you will just find it. You will just go and sit in go to a library, for instance, and sit in a corner and find that moment of tranquility. It's a God-given moment. And, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to have that moment will come to us. So it's important that we feed the soul with acts that help us reconnect back to Allah Most High. So we are trying to do things, act on things, and be present in the things that we are doing, so that we can connect back with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think when we work on these things, it helps us. Sometimes you won't even know it, and you're doing something or you're reading something, and you're actually in a moment of tranquility, but you don't know it. So it's an interesting one. And I wanted to try and share a few tips with you about how we can cultivate inner peace within our daily practice and our daily lives. And the first and foremost one, which we should all as Muslims be doing, is our daily prayers, salah, committing ourselves to the daily prayers. The clocks go back in a couple of weeks' time, near the end of October. We have an hour that we are subconsciously gaining, and our salahs will be much closer. So, by 6 o'clock, you would have done your 5 daily prayers. And so there's no excuse really at any time of the year. But in the winter, you can just make one wudu for the day and you can read your 5 daily salahs. So it's really important that we commit ourselves to offering our 5 daily prayers. It's just an act of obedience. It's just disciplining yourself and saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed this on every Muslim as a compulsory part of their life. So you're just going to be an obedient servant and act on it. And also, committing to these 5 daily prayers is 5 moments of the day when you are taking that pause, when you are trying to switch off from those external pressures, internal struggles, and you are switching off and you're able to reconnect, breathe, and reset. It's time to leave the worries behind and focus on your bond with Allah. It's your conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So stay consistent. And a tip that I can share with you here, a way of doing this is approach your prayer with mindfulness. I was listening to a talk, and I've forgotten who it was by, but he was saying that if you actually, and it's true, if we actually translated what we are reading, like Surah Fatiha at the beginning of our Salah, if we actually translate what we are reading in English and what the words that we are saying, they are so powerful. And so I think if we sometimes, I remember someone saying to me that you should read your Salah in English, because by reading it in English, it will connect you better, because it's a language you understand. It's a language that you know what the meanings are for. So when you are saying it, you will know what you are saying, and you will be a bit more present in your Salah. Now, a wise teacher once said that when you enter your Salah, enter it with fear and humility, and exit it with regret. We have the fear and humility because we show respect and other, because we are standing in front of our Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we leave it with regret because we always know that we can do better, make our Salah even better. The second one is remembrance of Allah. We've had a text message come through from a sister saying that she's cooking and listening to the show. Jazakallah khair, and thank you for connecting. A really good show, mashallah. You get a lot of mental clarity just for pondering on nature as well, taking in every breath. She enjoyed her morning walk this morning. Because it does clear the head. So it's amazing, and you don't know it until you actually do it, how much it's actually relaxing. I when I did that walk, and I only did it because it was a homework task for my daughter, but when I did it, I felt at ease. I felt peace. I felt like I'd sort of cleared my head, and when I came back home, I felt a million times better than me running on the treadmill or trying to do 100 skips. It cleared my head. The second one was remembrance of Allah, which is, making dhikr, phrases like Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. These are very strong words. Glory be to Allah, praise be to Allah, Allah is the greatest. These can calm our heart, and it's a form of meditation. So the tip here, try to repeat these phrases when you're, if you are cooking, like the sister that's just messaged this morning, while you're cooking, just to recite these words and continuously say it. You're blessing your food, you're blessing everything around you at that time, and you're keeping your mind calm and connected. The third one is trust in Allah's plan, tawakkul, which I think is probably the hardest. Not say to trust in Allah's plan, but to just let go of the worries, because it's human nature. Anxiety comes from trying to control everything. We want to be in charge of things. And one of the big things that I find difficult is, letting my children go and make decisions and do things, because you think that we have that control, and I, as her mum or his mum, know best for them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the decider for everything. Everything that comes our way is because Allah has willed it. So it's really important that we reset our minds and do our best, but then leave the rest to Allah. And this is a reminder to all those children that are sitting exams, people applying for jobs, changing jobs, doing a meeting, sitting a big presentation. You do your part and leave the rest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to trust, and ultimately, if Allah wills, these things will come to us. And if they don't, then they weren't meant to be, and there was khair in it. It was for the greater good that it didn't come our way. So, and the fourth and last way of trying to practice inner peace is gratitude. Focusing on what you have rather than what you lack, and you can shift your mindset from stress to contentment. And I think I've shared this in a show before, but a tip here is try to list 3 things daily that you're grateful for. And these could be, I remember listening to a talk by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf where he said, people are so ungrateful. We are so ungrateful that we have eyelashes. We have eyelashes, we can blink there are people there in the world that don't have eyelashes, that cannot blink. And, even as something as small, what we think is small, being grateful for these simple things can, create a habit of us seeing blessings, even through the tough times. Now, by in putting this in our lives, it will help us make better relationships. It will help us keep calmer when we are making decisions, and also connect us spiritually with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think ultimately that is the most important thing. Now, listeners, we are heading over to a short commercial break. I hope that you have found what I have shared with you this morning of benefit, inshallah. After the break, we are going to be moving on to a talk that I'm sharing with you by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, which is, in a nutshell, in probably better words than what I've said, about what we've discussed this morning. But for now, go refill that brew and reconnect to the show after a short commercial break. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وبسم الله. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدوامها وإن قل. That the most beloved action to Allah is those which are regular, even if little.
Enjoy quality and tasty 100% authentic halal Chinese and Thai food from Gao Express. Brought to you by the team behind Top Pizza in Luton. Choose from all your delicious Chinese and Thai favourites. Then order for delivery or collection from Gao Express in Wellington Street, Luton, Marketplace, Stevenage, and now also on Nightingale Road in Hitchin. Open daily midday till late. Find the number or order online at Gao, that's Gao, express.co.uk, or like Gao Express on Facebook.
Had an accident, a bump, trip or fall? Then you need Claims Specialists, your first choice for accident claims. The Specialist Claims Company on Dunstable Road in Luton. With excellent access to expert solicitors and on a no-win, no-fee basis, Claims Specialists use their 30 years experience to help get you the best compensation possible. For injuries at work, taxi, PCO and private hire incidents, road accidents and vehicle damage, medical negligence, plus rented housing disrepair. In short, when you need to make any claim, click on claimspecialists.co.uk or call 01582 733 222.
For the tastiest sizzling steaks around, book now for Taurus Luton Boot Street, LU1 2EP. And not just for the best grass-fed and dry-hung aged halal steaks, as Taurus Luton also serve amazing chicken dishes, burgers, sumptuous sides, salads and vegetarian options, with mouth-watering mocktails too. All this and with excellent service. View the menu, book your table, or even party or celebration event at taurusluton.co.uk or call 01582 750 213.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरा नाम किरण है। कोट कश्मीर ऑर्फन रिलीफ ट्रस्ट मेरा एक खूबसूरत घर है जहां मेरे साथ सैकड़ों यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों की तालीम और तरबियत और पुरसुकून माहौल में परवरिश हो रही है, और ये सब कुछ आपके तावन से मुमकिन है। अल्लाह से दुआ है कि अल्लाह करीम आपको सदा सलामत रखे, और उम्मीद है कि आप इसी तरह अपना प्यार, मोहब्बत और तावन जारी रखेंगे। कोट UK ऑफिस 0300123774 court.org.uk.
Are you thinking of starting a podcast or looking to give your podcast a new home? Why not hire Inspire FM's dedicated recording studio? With rates starting at just £25 per booking, our podcast studio is a fully functional, acoustically treated space for up to 4 people, and it's set up and ready to use as soon as you arrive. For more information or to inquire about booking, email us at info@inspirefm.org or send us a DM on our social media accounts at InspireFM Luton.
बख्शिश तेरी आंखों की तरफ देख रही है, मोहसन तेरे दरबार में चुपचाप खड़ा है। मैं रोज गुल बज़्म नात के साथ आपकी खिदमत में हाजिर होता हूँ हर जुम्मतुल मुबारक सुबह 9 से 10 बजे के दरमियान। आप भी हमारे प्रोग्राम का हिस्सा बन सकते हैं और अपनी आवाज में हमद या नात दूसरों की समातों की नजर कर सकते हैं। तो सुनते रहिए Inspire FM 105.1.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. You are tuned into Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's Friday, 1st of December, and the time has now just gone 10:30. Earlier in the show, I was sharing some tips on how we can help ourselves survive the winter, not just ourselves, but our homes and our cars. I hope you found those tips of benefit. In the next half of the show, I will be sharing a lovely talk by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, where he is talking about gratitude and how we should be reminding ourselves to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that we do have. I hope that you find this talk of benefit as I did myself.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الكرام ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Mother's Planet. It's Friday, 18th of October, and the time has now just gone 10:30. Earlier in the show, listeners, I was talking about how we could help ourselves reconnect and find that inner peace. So I hope that you found some of my points of benefit. I'm now going to be sharing a talk with you by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, which is talking about how we can reconnect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and prioritizing our faith in our lives. And I think in the busy world of the dunya, especially now when I speak to people, I hear people say, gosh, I didn't have the time to speak to you, or time's going so fast. You know, we're living in a very fast-paced world. So in today's current time, I think it's very difficult to connect. So I think a reminder like this would be of benefit to us, inshallah. So I hope you enjoy the talk.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, نحمد الله سبحانه وتعالى ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وصلواته وسلامه على أفضل خلق الله على سيدنا وحبيبنا رسول الله محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله ومن والاه. أما بعد فيا عباد الله، أوصيكم وأوصي نفسي بتقوى الله في السر والعلنية، فإن تقوى الله لا يأتي إلا بخير. والله سبحانه وتعالى وصانا في كتابه في عدة أماكن أن نتقي الله سبحانه وتعالى. والتقوى هو اجتناب الله، هو امتثال بأوامر الله سبحانه وتعالى واجتناب نواهيه في ظاهر وباطن. التقوى رأس الدين، والله سبحانه وتعالى جعل مخافة الله سبحانه وتعالى رأس الحكمة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He says, إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقيم الصلاة لذكري. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes addresses people directly in the Quran, other times He uses the second or the third person. But in this case, He's using the first person. إنني أنا الله, declaring that I am your God, I am Allah. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا. There's nothing worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, me here, He says, except me alone. And then He says, so worship me, ibadah, and establish the prayer for my remembrance. لذكري أقيموا الصلاة لذكري. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the masajid are biyut, fi biyutin أذن الله أن ترفع. In houses that Allah has permitted to be erected for Him. وَيُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ. And that in those houses, His name is mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ فِيهَا. And they worship Him in those houses. بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. In the ghudwa, in the morning, the early morning period, and in the afternoon period, because these are the two most important times of ibadah. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the Fajr and the Isha prayer, أَثْقَلُ الصَّلَاةِ عَلَى الْمُنَافِقِينَ. They're the hardest prayers for the hypocrites, the early prayer and the late prayer. So these two times in particular are times, even the birds, if you listen in the morning, early morning, in the late afternoon, even the birds gather in the trees and you can hear them doing their tasbih. The Prophet ﷺ loved the frogs. He said of all the creatures, he loved the frogs the most because they did the most tasbih. And you can hear them in the early morning and in the evening doing their tasbih. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about these people that they're rijal لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة. That they are not preoccupied from their commerce and their trade from remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't preoccupy them. They remember Allah. One of the Andalusian travelers went to Mecca, and when he came back, people used to ask the question, what's the strangest thing you saw? He said, I saw an old man clinging to the Kaaba, asking for dunya. That was the strangest thing that he saw. An old man clinging to the Kaaba asking for dunya. And he said, and then I went into the souk and I saw a young man in the midst of his trading remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. The heart, if it's connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People don't think about what Allah has done for them. They don't think about it. They're in heedlessness. There are people now that haven't remembered God for years. They don't even think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet every instant is completely and utterly dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your breath, your lungs, your kidneys, your digestion, everything is dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who has ordered the universe. He is the Qayyum. He's the one who has set it up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing everything for us. And then He asks for us to do some things for Him. To remember Him at least 5 times a day. That's minimal. He's remembering us in every instant. Because if He didn't remember us, we wouldn't even exist. Udkuruni adkurkum. That is a higher. If you remember me in this way, then I'll remember you. If you remember me, إِذَا مَنْ ذَكَرَنِي فِي مَلَئٍ ذَكَرْتُهُ فِي مَلَئٍ خَيْرٍ مِّنْهُ. Whoever remembers me in a gathering like this, Allah says He will make mention of him in a gathering better than that gathering. Amongst the angels. There's people unknown to everybody that are known to the angels because they're simple people that nobody even thinks about or gives it the time of day, but they're up in the night before Fajr calling on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah knows those people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes those people known to His mala, to His assembly. So Allah has given us masajid, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. The masajid are for the sake of Allah. Do not call upon other than Allah in the masajid. Whoever says that I lost something in a masjid, according to the hadith, you're supposed to say, La raddallahu ballatak. May Allah not return the thing you lost. لِأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لَمْ تُبْنَى لِهَذَا. Because masjids were not built to ask people if they know where you left your such and such. They were built for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or they were bought for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People build things. They don't know why they're building things. Somebody had an idea here, and it's become another idea. The architects, when they built this, they didn't think about Qibla. But it's maqdur. It's something Allah decreed. People one day would be praying in this building. Subhanallah. People in this country, you know, Islam is showing up everywhere. You can't get away from Muslims in America. I can't. Wherever I go, I see Muslims. You can't get away from Muslims. So even America, who would have thought? Well, actually, they thought early on about Muslims here because it's mentioned in the earliest documents about making it a safe place for Jews, Christians, infidels, and Mohammedans, Hindus. Jefferson mentioned Mohammedans and Hindus. That was his idea. And there were already Muslims. They knew there were Muslims. George Washington, in a letter, was requesting somebody to go find workmen for his plantation. And one of the things he said, I don't mind if they're Mohammedans. I mean, why would he even mention that if there weren't Mohammedans around offering their services? So there have been Muslims here from the very start. But now increasing numbers and masajid are being built or bought in different places. But the masajid have a hurma. And a lot of Muslims don't think about this anymore. I'll give you an example. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever does wudu, من توضأ فأحسن وضوءه ولبس أحسن ثيابه وتطيب إذا كان عنده طيب ثم ذهب مشى إلى المسجد ولم يركب ودنا من الإمام ولم يلغو. If a person goes on Jum'ah, he does a good wudu, and in the other riwayah, the Prophet ﷺ, من اغتسل يوم الجمعة غسل الجنابة. Whoever takes a ghusl on the Yawm al-Jumu'ah of like janaba, as if he was in janaba, and then he goes to the first hour, في ساعة الأولى فكأنما قرب بدنا. It's as if he gave a camel, a big camel in sacrifice in the first hour. But in this hadith, he said, whoever does ikhtasara or does the wudu, and then wears his best clothes, labisa ahsana thiyabihi. See, like Harun, we were Christian before we were Muslim. I was a Christian before I was Muslim. We had to wear what was called your Sunday best to go to church. You didn't go to church wearing a t-shirt. In fact, you wouldn't even think of that. And if somebody did, they would have people would have stared at them, shocked. Like, why are you showing such disrespect to a house of God? That's how Christians would look at it. Why are you showing such disrespect to a house of God? By not even bothering to dress appropriately. By not even bothering to dress nicely one day out of the week. Well, it's a casual day at work. We don't have to wear nice clothes. We've been doing that all week. That's not the Muslims have we have a sanctity to the day of Jumu'ah. Ya bani Adam, khudu zinatakum 'inda kulli masjid. Oh, children of Adam, ornament yourselves in every masjid where you go. Ornament yourselves. Wear nice perfume for other people. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man akala al-baqlata thum, aw al-basal wal-kurrath, fala yaqrabanna masajidana." Whoever eats garlic or leeks or onions, let him not come near our masajid. فَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تَتَأَذَّى بِمَا يَتَأَذَّى مِنْهُ النَّاسِ. The angels don't even like what people don't like. So if you come to the masjid smelling like last night's meal, and then you pray next to a person who's thinking about paradise, and you're reminding him of hell, seriously, we have a problem. We have a problem. The masjid is supposed to be a place where you come for spiritual repose. It's a place of dignity. It's a place of sakina. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you come into the masjid, don't raise your voice, don't talk. He said you're in prayer until you leave the masjid. He said one of the signs of the end of time is voices would be raised in the masajid. He said one of the signs of the end of time is people would talk about worldly affairs in the masajid. You have the whole world to talk about worldly affairs. Leave the house of God to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدِ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. So you can see Islam spreading in America, but the question, what kind of Islam? What kind of Islam? Is it going to be slacker Islam? Is it going to be like the slacker culture that's out there? Or are we going to be shuhada al-nas, people that still have human dignity in an age of utter and complete human degradation? That's the question to ask yourselves. Are we going to be dignified people that dress in a dignified manner? Just because everybody else is dressing like that, look at how Muslims dress for centuries. Even the poorest Muslims dress beautifully. Go to Said, Egypt. Go to the Swat Valley. Go to the Malaysian villages and look how Muslims dress in traditional clothes with human dignity. They never dress wearing billboards on there, selling people's products that they don't even get paid to do. People wearing billboards, wearing all these things on there, you know, Nike and Tommy Hilfiger or whoever. That's why I ask people, are they paying you? Do you have a contract? You know, a human billboard, they pay money to put their name on billboards, cardboard boxes out there. They put money, they give money to put their names on billboards. They give money to put their names on pixelated images on the internet, and yet you're allowing them for free to put their name on your body created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you don't even think about it. Human billboards. Total, complete, utter human degradation. This is what's happened to Bani Adam, the Khalifa. The Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only creature that walks upright, straight, mustaqim, with dignity. The only creature that can articulate his needs, that can complain if he has complaints, that can praise if he feels a need to praise, that can give thanks and gratitude. We're the only creature that can do that. Other creatures, dogs can show some gratitude, but they can't write a thank you note. Human beings are something exalted. We're an exalted species, and yet we've allowed Iblis to completely and utterly abase us. To rub our noses in the dirt, not for the sake of Allah in sajda, but to show what utterly degraded creatures we are. Because that was his claim. He said, you're choosing him over me. I'm a high thing. He's a low thing. He's nothing. And Iblis has been given respite until the end of time to prove to God that God was wrong. That's what Iblis wants to do. He wants to prove to God, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you were wrong in choosing Bani Adam. You should have chosen me and my progeny. I'll show you really how to worship you. Envy. And so that's his mission. 7/24. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. To degrade human beings. Strip them of their ornaments. Make them naked. The Prophet ﷺ said one of the signs of the end of time is you'll see people walking in marketplaces, meaning they're not Aboriginal people, where Aboriginal people are like children. They have a purity, so they dress, they have so attained. They're not in marketplaces. He didn't say public, he said in marketplace, in civilized places. You will see people walking with their thighs fully exposed. That's a sign of the degraded state of people, not Aboriginal people, like native peoples that don't look upon each other lustfully in that way. But civilized people, degraded to the point where they walk around with no shame. No shame. Shame is a beautiful thing. Haya, modesty. لكل دين خلق وخلق الإسلام الحياة. Every religion has a quality and a characteristic, and the quality and characteristic of my religion is modesty, a sense of shame. The Prophet ﷺ, they said that he was more modest than a virgin that was still cloistered, that hadn't come out. That was his modesty, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One day he went to the masjid and he found people in the masjid and he said, Ma ajlasakum, what has brought you sitting here in the masjid? And they said, the only thing that brought us here was we came to remember Allah. He said, Allah. Ma ajlasakum illa hadha. That's the only reason you came? And they said, Na'am ya Rasulullah. He said, Wallahi, I didn't ask you in this interrogative tuhmatan, like out of suspicion. But Jibreel came to me and said that Allah was making mention and proud of those sitting in the masjid. So he wanted to go see who they were and what brought them there. The Prophet ﷺ said on Yawm al-Jumu'ah, if you come in the first hour, and there's 12 hours of the day, 12 in the night, and they differ because we don't have 60-minute hours in traditional reckoning. The hours are based on the Maghrib and Isha, so you can have an hour that's 30 minutes one part of the year, and it's 70 minutes another part of the year. That's the way it works. So when you look at these, he mentions 5 hours before Jum'ah. That's the idea that Fajr was at 6 o'clock, and then the Jum'ah is at 12 o'clock. So there's your 6 hours. So, but if Fajr is at 4 o'clock and Dhuhr is at 1 o'clock, then the hours are extended. So that's how you have to figure it out. He said, if you go in the first hour, which is the hour after Fajr, on Yawm al-Jumu'ah, to wait until the Imam. This is what Muslims used to do. He said it's as if you sacrificed a camel. If you go in the second hour, it's as if you sacrificed a cow, a baqarah. If you go in the third hour, فَكَأَنَّمَا, it's as if you sacrificed ata bi kibshan. It's as if he brought a kibshan aqran. And if you come in the fourth hour, it's as if you brought a chicken. And if you come in the fifth hour, it's as if you brought an egg. That's it. It's as if you brought an egg. And then when the Imam comes out, there's no more gifts to bring. Once the Imam's out, if you come at that point, it's closed. That's what we're giving to Allah these days. The best of us are giving eggs. Seriously. And then you wonder the state of the Muslims. Serious people wonder, like, what? Ibn Atta'illah said, if you want to know where you stand with God, look at where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. Where is he on your list of priorities? If he's number one priority, then you're number one priority with him. If he's number 5 on the list, my work, my money, my wife, my family, whatever, everybody has their priorities. Then that's where you stand. And if he's not even in the list of priorities, it's just lip service. So that's something for Muslims to think about. So as we embark on a new place of worship in our community, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it a safe place, a blessed place, a respected place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put respect of these places in our hearts. Because now it's consecrated for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever it was before, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. It was bought with an intention, and then that intention manifests. So people should think about that. And then also about clothes is tanbih al-ghafil. Alhamdulillah, your people praying Jumu'ah, there's lots of Muslims out there right now, they're not even bothering praying Jumu'ah. The good people, inshallah, we ask Allah to be amongst the good people. But the good people come, even if they come in less than the highest desirable state. So I'm not in any way, it's not for ta'yir, to make fault or blame anybody. It's just tanbih al-ghafil, to remind people, wallahi, it's my intention. It's not to expose anybody or make any fault. It's just a reminder. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَ تَنْفَعَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. But I have to be honest with you, I've mentioned this, people have come up to me afterwards, don't tell me how to dress. Get angry. I'm doing it out of ghayra. You have that word in Urdu for people who speak Urdu, ghayrat. Ghayrat. Ghayra is a beautiful word in Arabic because it's the idea of a protectiveness that you have for something that you hold dear. And if anybody tries to diminish the respect of that thing, you feel angry. That ghayra is that feeling that comes inside of you when you see like your family member, your wife, your child being dishonored or disrespected. You feel ghayra. The religion of Allah is more worthy of our ghairah than anything in this dunya. It's more worthy of our ghairah than anything in this dunya. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك يا الله. اللهم يا الله أنزل علينا السكينة والرحمة. اللهم أمن هذا المكان وأمن الأمناء على هذا المكان. اللهم اجعلنا من الجوادين على هذا المكان. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين ينفقون في سبيلك على هذا المكان. اللهم احفظ نساءنا في هذا المكان وفي كل مكان. اللهم احفظ أولادنا في هذا المكان وفي كل مكان. اللهم طهر قلوبنا. اللهم اجعل المساجد أحب إلينا من الأسواق يا الله. اللهم اجعل زيارة المساجد أحب إلينا من الأسواق يا الله. اللهم إن أحب الأماكن إليك يا الله المساجد، فاجعلها أحب الأماكن إلينا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح علينا يا الله. اللهم افتح علينا وردنا إلى دينك مردا جميلا.